Welcome to College Smart Radio, helping you bring into focus the true cost of college and how to tackle the runaway costs of financing a college education. College Smart Radio is hosted by Beatrice Schultz, a certified financial planner and co-founder of Westface College Planning. Now, here's your host for College Smart Radio, Beatrice Schultz.
Welcome to College Smart Radio, where we help you tackle the runaway costs of college. Earning a higher income or having substantial assets doesn't mean you'll have to pay a premium for a college education. Parents of college-bound students must educate themselves on how to navigate the complex and overwhelming process of paying for a college education. On today's College Smart Radio program, we're going to discuss how parents of college-bound students should be educating themselves as early as possible. Strategies for college funding are not just about knowing which applications to complete and filling them in correctly. Parents need to know how to navigate the system and implement strategies to spend the least for college. Hi, I'm Beatrice Schultz. Welcome to our weekly show, College Smart Radio, where we help you tackle the runaway costs of a college education. Our show is all about bringing up-to-date and practical advice to parents who are dealing with the cost of a college education for their kids. College is expensive and getting more so each year. With a private school costing up to $60,000, a UC costing close to $35,000, and a California State University running $25,000 per year, parents need more help than ever. We bring you that help by sharing ways to pay less, tapping into financial aid, and prioritizing your source of funds to make sure you get through the most expensive years of your life. Based on my own education and experience, I share my insights with you week in and week out. I hold a Bachelor of Science degree in Chemical Engineering and a Master's degree in International Business, and I am a certified financial planner and the owner of the San Carlos-based college planning business, Westface College Planning. We host workshops on college planning and consult with parents on a daily basis. In addition to my insights, I bring in experts in many areas of the college process. From counselors, financial aid officers, college administrators, financial professionals, parents, and even students, you'll learn firsthand the ins and outs of how to pay for college and survive financially. In addition to our show, you can find lots of powerful information at our collegesmartradio.com and westfacecollegeplanning.com websites. We have many articles that I've authored with up-to-date information on navigating the waters of paying for the runaway cost of college. We have a monthly e-newsletter full of content about college planning. We also have posted a glossary of key terms used in the world of college planning. Terms like total cost of attendance, FAFSA, EFC, student assets, base year, and so forth. And we have a link to our free community parent workshops that we host to teach parents about how to pay for college and how the financial aid system really works. So let's get into today's show. Having a college funding plan will save you money on your child's education. So many families know that they need a plan, and they want a plan, but they have no idea how to get started. Even if your students are juniors, seniors, or already in college, it's not too late to get a plan together. Rachel Louise Insing wrote a great informative article in the Wall Street Journal last month. The article's title is How Not to Blow It with Financial Aid, Common Mistakes Parents and Students Make When Seeking Help with College Costs. I've posted a link to this great article on my www.collegesmartradio.com website under Resources and then Links. You're going to want to read the article. In the article, she mentions a wealth of factors that go into determining how much every student will pay for college. And yes, every student will pay a different amount. College costs are like airline tickets. Every student pays a different amount for a seat in that lecture hall. In the Wall Street Journal article, Rachel talks about a lot of different topics. One of them, let's say, timings of bonuses. What if you earn too much in the wrong time? She talks about what if grandma or other family members want to contribute for college? Which family members should be holding the college money? She talks about errors families make about assumptions about what schools will offer. The truth is, every school is not going to offer the same financial aid. She also talks about merit aid and the fact that it's not only about grades and SAT scores. In fact, we talked to Betsy Peters here on College Smart Radio last week. She's the owner of Possibility U, and we talked about merit aid on this show, which is one of the things that Rachel mentioned. You can get an archive of that show by going to www.collegesmartradio.com. Rachel also mentions that too many families do not apply for aid because they assume they will not qualify, which is a huge error. We work with clients all the time, many of them affluent, that end up qualifying for aid that they never expected. And a big error that families make is they check out these net calculators online, they calculate what their expected family contribution, or EFC, is, and they think that's all they're going to need to pay, when the reality is these college financial awards can be vague and confusing, but typically you always end up paying more than that expected family contribution, or some loans are going to be included in that package. So Rachel's article is filled with great information, but the typical family would find it overwhelming to navigate the whole system and just be able to read an article and figure out what to do about it. So many families would like to use a professional college financial planner like myself, but they're not even sure what that means. It basically means working closely with an expert who knows how to navigate the waters, including maximizing financial aid strategies, using a financial approach to college selection, reviewing loan options, understanding the appeals process, and really charting a full college funding roadmap. So joining me on today's show to talk with me about what every family should know about short-term college planning is a renowned college funding expert, Scott Moffitt. Scott is recognized nationally for his expertise in financial planning. He's a president of College Planning Relief, the nation's largest organization of college planning professionals. I met Scott 3 years ago when he was a speaker at a conference for financial advisors. He is one of the leading planners in the field of short-term college planning and retirement, and his expertise is sought by many other financial planners across the country. Through his organization, College Planning Relief, I get regular access to a network of professional college funding advisors across the country so that I can bring their wealth of knowledge to all of my clients. We meet weekly to discuss all aspects of college funding. Scott is also the author of the book, College and Retirement, You Can Do Both, a book about strategies for short-term college planning success in today's economy. Hi, Scott. Welcome to College Smart Radio.
Hi, Beatrice. Thanks for those kind words. I'm thrilled to be with you today. Sounds like we're going to have a fun conversation.
Yeah, I look forward to it. People often ask me how I got into the business of college funding strategies for short-term college planning, and for me, in our financial planning and retirement planning practice, many of our clients have children, and many plan that their children will attend college. And with college costing $20,000 to $60,000 a year, the cost of college has to be in every family's financial plan. In fact, for most families, college will be the most expensive years of their lives. So college costs were always in the plan, but after meeting Scott was when it was really a turning point for me in understanding that there are really important strategies that every family should implement, and they should have a college funding expert on their team that'll help them reduce the out-of-pocket amount that they have to pay. That presentation actually launched my interest in the topic, or my passion, I think I should say. And I, since then, researched college planning and funding strategies, and I've really become my own expert as a college funding specialist. So now, a couple of years later, I've worked with so many different family experiences with paying for college. It's gut-wrenching for me to see how many families spend far too much for college because they did not understand the strategies or do the research necessary to make the right choices throughout the career and college selection process. Way too many families are going about the process the wrong way. Scott, how did you get into this?
Well, Beatrice, I'm almost embarrassed to tell you how my career in college planning came about, but the fact of the matter was, about 12 years ago, much like you, I was running a successful financial planning practice, and I happened to have a series of just regular financial reviews with families, and what happened was they asked me questions in our review that I was frankly ill-prepared to answer, and those questions kind of went something like this. They said, Scott, Susie's going off to college in a couple of years, and we don't have nearly enough money set aside. What are we going to do? And unfortunately, Beatrice, I didn't have any good, viable answers for them, and I realized that this was a very serious concern that they had. It was a worry that they had, and so after having a couple of rather uncomfortable meetings like that, I realized that I needed to sharpen my skills. I needed to add, if you will, a new discipline to my practice to be able to better take care of my clients. And so that kind of begun my career. And Beatrice, what was amazing was as I started to dig into college planning, as I started to look at the ways in which families could go about this process and could go about paying for college, I realized that there were more and more families, much like you realized, that were unnecessarily paying, in many cases, tens of thousands of dollars more than they needed to, more than they could afford to pay for college. And it just really became a passion of mine. And as I started doing that, I realized that, you know, I could make a significant difference in my own community with that. And frankly, it just expanded into an opportunity to be able to meet with, you know, other professionals such as yourself, to where now I think that we're actually beginning to make a difference in this country in helping a generation of families actually send their kids to college without jeopardizing mom and dad's retirement.
I think it's so important, and one of the things that families will sometimes say, well, I'm not going to qualify for financial aid, or, well, I don't have the money, but I don't know, well, we're just going to do it. What I hear from families so often is, we're just going to pay for it. And the problem with we're just going to pay for it is it can be a real hit on your retirement.
You know, Beatrice, there's no question about it. And I, too, hear that same statement. And I think there's a couple of real big problems that families should be aware with that philosophy.
Hey, Scott, hold that for just a minute, because I'm going to have to take a break.
Yeah, sure.
You're with us on College Smart Radio, and my guest today is Scott Moffitt, the president of College Planning Relief. We all know that college is expensive and will most likely be some of the most costly years of our lives. Understanding how to navigate the college costs to save everywhere is something everyone needs to do. It's a smart thing to do. We'll be right back with Scott Moffitt on College Smart Radio.
For more information on today's topic, visit collegesmartradio.com or call area code 650-587-1517. College Smart Radio continues in moments on AM 1220 KDOW. Contact Beatrice Schultz at collegesmartradio.com or call area code 650-587-1517. Now, back to College Smart Radio with your host, Beatrice Schultz, on AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back to College Smart Radio, where we help you tackle the runaway costs of college. I'm Beatrice Schultz. I'm talking with my guest, Scott Moffitt, about short-term college planning. Scott has generously offered us 10 signed copies of his book, College and Retirement, You Can Do Both. And these books will be available to the first 10 people who send me their name, email, and mailing address. You can do so via email at info@westfacecollegeplanning.com. That's info@WESTFACE collegeplanning.com. But you can also send me your name, email, and address directly on our collegesmartradio.com site. Hey, Scott, thanks so much for offering to send us those books. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your book, and then we'll get into what some of the families are doing wrong in the process and how we can help.
Glad to do it, Nick. You know, the answers to both of those kind of go hand in hand. Though, you know, Beatrice, I've written the book out of my experience in working for the last 11 or 12 years with families, and all the consistent mistakes or fallacies that I see families operating underneath. And so I've really tried to put together a book that is a very easy read. It's intended for families that don't have a lot of time because they're busy raising their kids, that will simply highlight a number of ways by which they can, you know, avoid costly mistakes in paying for college. And frankly, you know, to your point, when you're going to pay $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 per year per child, you know, even to save 15 or 20% means tens of thousands of dollars in savings. And that's what the book is intended to do.
I think it's great, and people don't even understand. Those numbers are so big that some people can't even fathom it. Scott's book is one of my favorites in the business, and in fact, it's a book that I offer and give to attendees who attend my workshops.
Well, I appreciate that. And, you know, Beatrice, you had asked me the question about, you know, the danger of people just saying, well, we're just going to pay for it. And really, there's two real big issues I see with that, Beatrice. The first one is families just don't know and don't fully understand what I'm just going to pay for it actually means. Because when you're talking about 5 or 6 years, when you factor in 5 or 6% inflation, the number is almost always significantly bigger than the family ever imagines. And where that number ultimately is going to culminate into a real big, ugly debt is, you know, shortly thereafter college, when most families are now focused on retirement.